Hey guys, I'm back again. I didn't think I was going to be back until January, but anyway, here I am. So basically, I was talking to a friend and I was basically saying that, I saw this trailer for a new movie, upcoming movie coming out in 2026, which is called Disclosure Day with Emily Blunt. It's a Steven Spielberg movie. And was just talking about it, and I was explaining, the trailer and what happened. And just quickly, in case you haven't seen the trailer, Emily Blunt in this movie is a news reporter. She's basically live, just about to report the news, and it shows you in the trailer people around the world looking at their phones, looking at the TV, and of course watching Emily Blunt or whatever her name is in the movie. Again about to report on the news, and her face starts changing and long story short, an entity or an extraterrestrial is coming through and using her voice to send a message. And I heard the tone and I was like, boom, I know exactly that tone. Um, or at least it could be similar to another type of extraterrestrial in that movie. I guess we'll find out. But for me, it sounded like, or at least it reminded me of the Greys, only because I've had my own experiences, which I'm going to get into. This is what I'm going to talk about. There is a funny one, but I just want to quickly say that, I know, of course, many people have had traumatic experiences with the Greys, me included. Trust me, guys, I have. But this particular experience with the Greys was actually quite funny. And so I'm only bringing it just to kind of, make you laugh. If you see it funny, you may not. But, just to bring a little bit of all my experiences, of course, are traumatic, but I have had funny experiences, and because it is funny, um, I thought, bring it to the channel, and I don't know, it might make some of you guys laugh. I don't know. In fact, perhaps it might trigger your own memories. Perhaps you have had these kind of experiences. But anyway, I was sharing this experience with my friend, which I'm going to share with you, and she was like, "Oh my God, Zoe, you got to get it on your channel. You got to get it on your channel." But me and her was just laughing hysterically. It was so funny. You might not find it funny, but in the during the experience, I wouldn't say it was funny, but after, yes, absolutely funny. So again, I don't. My intentions are not to trigger anyone that has had negative experiences with the Greys. Now, I'm not saying the positive. I just want to say, in my experiences, they've all been bad, negative. We're talking about the small Greys, the hive mind Greys, robotic, no emotions. The worker bees. I know there's different Greys in all shapes and sizes and forms, so I'm not coming for all the Greys. I'm sure there might be perhaps some lovely ones. Who knows? But the types of experiences I've had with Greys and different kinds, have been negative. But anyway, let's jump into it. So in this experience, I'll start with a funny one. I was basically standing, looking down at my feet, except for they weren't my feet. And of course, I didn't realise straight away that I was in a grey body. But anyway, I'm just going to describe what it was and how it was for me. So I'm looking down and I'm seeing my feet. And it was the strangest feeling. Um, and I knew, I was like, as in me, like, not any of my other alters, which I'm surprised I didn't use one of my other alters. They used me, which is confusing, but I'll get to that at the end. And I'm looking, I'm like, oh, my feet look weird. And I remember just feeling really squashed inside this strange body. It felt heavy. It felt very dense. It felt very stiff. It was so strange. Being in this body trying to move. And I remember lifting my arms up, looking at my hands and seeing, a thumb and two fingers, either two or three fingers on both hands. I remember with the feet, it was large toe and two other toes, smaller toes, wide set apart. Again, the skin colour was grey. And so yeah, I'm just like looking at my body, like thinking, oh my God, this is so strange. It was so bizarre and surreal. Anyway, so I noticed under my feet there was like, I don't know if I've said this already, guys, but under my feet it was like loose gravel, like it was quite dark, but I did notice there were like large pits on the ground. So I kind of sensed and knew that I was on the moon. And so I look up, and I'm looking around, and I'm seeing all these greys. They're like, ants all in a line. They're all marching and walking to somewhere. I had no idea where they were walking to. And I was just looking. And the sense that I got was that I was there to collect to collect intel, perhaps spy, get information. But at the same time, I couldn't work out if it was a like a test training or an actual mission. It All this was going on within me, and so it was very hard to tell. But I guess it kind of makes sense. Yeah, I guess it probably definitely was more a mission, because I remember thinking in my mind, I was speaking to myself in my mind, which was stupid, which is the funny bit, saying, I don't think I'm going to do this. It's not, I don't think this is going to work. I was like second guessing myself. I was doubting myself. Um, I forgot to include that bit when I was sharing it with my friends. So she's listening. There you go. That was the missing bit. And like thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to do this. And then I froze and I realised, and I said to myself stupidly, oh shit, they can hear me. Oh God. And immediately one of the Greys' heads, who was marching in front of me, turned around, his head spun around like a boomerang, his eyes straight on me, and I literally looked at him and I went, oh shit, you can hear me. Completely forgot that they are telepathic, they're hive mind, very telepathic, and they heard me, which don't make sense. I mean, what a stupid thing for me to do if I'm on mission. So I'm like, that was the impression I got, I was on mission. Perhaps it was like a mission type training scenario, you know? That would make more sense. Well, anyway, mission failed. And so, yeah, I froze. This grey was staring at me, and I remember saying, oh shit, again. I turn around and I'm trying to run in this body that isn't mine. And it is so strange, guys. It felt heavy, it felt dense, it felt cold, it felt alien. It was the most strangest feeling. And I'm running, I'm hobbling. I wouldn't even say I'm running. I'm being chased by this grey. And I remember running as best as I could, saying telepathically, guys, this has failed. You've got to get me now. So yeah, it's all come back to me now. And I'm running and I'm hobbling, and it's like my legs are wide set apart, and I'm wobbling, and I'm trying to run and pick my feet up. My arms are just stuck out like we were wobbling, and I've got this freaking grey chasing me. And I was just thinking how stupid I was. Anyway, and that. That's all I remember. So yeah. So very interesting. I don't know who sent me on this mission or training, test, all of the above. I don't know. I really don't know, guys. I don't get all my memory. But yeah, this is what they do. And if you're a milab and you've had your consciousness put into another extraterrestrial, let me know, because they do that, guys. They do that. Just like there's extraterrestrial souls right now in this human body, me being one of them, and so I remember, being young and not being able to function in this human body. I still don't feel completely connected fully to this body. It's so strange, but yeah, I struggled, and a lot of souls that come elsewhere that I hear are having a human experience, or are envoys, volunteers, souls, go by many labels, names, many of you know. And a lot of us had difficulties. For me, mine was struggling with speaking. I struggled. I have shared that story time. I actually didn't speak until I was around 9. I was completely mute. My first language was telepathy, and I couldn't understand why my family couldn't hear me, and it was very frustrating. And I displayed some slight little behavioural problems, but they weren't behavioural problems. It was more frustration, because I'm speaking to my family and they couldn't hear me or understand me. So I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything on that particular experience, because I have a habit of that. So yeah, I don't know what I was doing. Like I say, I'm just repeating myself. Was it training? Was it a mission? I can't imagine it being a mission, because they can't be that sloppy, right? You know, I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, perhaps I should have said, Zoe, you need to keep your mind quiet. They're telepathic, you know? It just doesn't make sense. But I just remember it was very real, guys, very real. And something I'll never forget. So, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't, sometimes these things just do not make sense. So I'm assuming, it's got to be a training, testing or something. Perhaps they're probably like, oh yeah, this altar is definitely not, she's not going to work with these types of missions. Perhaps they use a different altar, is not so, I don't know, busy in the mind or something. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. And yeah, I've mentioned before on my channel, shared a few little things. So if you've heard any of the other ones I'm going to share with you, then my apologies. But yeah, in the house I'm in now, about 5 years ago, no, not that long ago, probably about 3, 4 years ago, my bed used to be next to my window. And I was awake. I wasn't asleep. I was awake. I remember my back was facing the window, and I turned round because I felt something. I felt an energy, a presence. And so as I turned round, then I was facing the window, which was literally like probably half a foot away. I saw this grey alien, not like the typical greys you see, the small greys. It was more, it was like a mix, like a grey mix of something else, like perhaps like a grey reptilian mix or perhaps grey Draco, something like that. Because its shape, its face was like a grey, but it was more rounder rather than triangular. It's small, dark eyes, a nose barely there, very small mouth, no ears. I mean, I could be wrong. It might not have been a grey, but I did sense grey in that energy, in that being. And it literally, his head was up against the window, staring at me. And I remember, I've got the chills now thinking about it, because immediately when I saw it, just want to mention as well, and I got a clear visual, because behind it is my street lamp, which is directly outside my window. So it lit it up. And I remember the skin colour, it wasn't just grey, it was almost like a very dark, dirty, khaki green. And it got texture on the skin as well. Even though I only saw it ever so quickly, I snapshot the face, and I still see it in my mind's eye to this day, and the details. And it was just staring at me. And I remember as soon as I saw it, I freaked out. I went into pure panic. And then I remember, like a little kid, like I used to as a kid, because I had some greys messing with me as a kid, tapping on the window, showing up in my room and stuff. But yeah, I freaked out, pulled the blanket over my head, and I was shaking, and I was scared, like I froze. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. I was, I guess, in that fight or flight or something. And I didn't know when to come out. I just kept thinking, oh my God, it's there, it's there. I could sense it, I could feel it. And eventually, of course, I slowly looked. It was horrible, guys. I was so scared. Now, in regards to its intentions, was it positive or negative? I don't know. Just because something looks horrible doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. Just because something looks positive and beautiful, like a Palladium, doesn't mean to say it's positive either. As many of you know, there's many nefarious Nordics, very beautiful, positive ones, and that's for most species, at least. So I don't know what its intentions were. It was just there. Okay, so another great experience. I was on the ship, and I was lying on a sterile, very cold metal, I'm assuming metal, um, bed. But, like what you see in the theatres, just plain cold stainless steel or some kind of metal, silver bed. And I was lying there, I was completely naked, and there were these greys. These were taller, three, I think, and four, there was a fourth one a bit more set back in the background. I think he was observing, but three of them were working on me. And then I of course, I freaked out, and then I kind of went into paralysis, like I was paralyzed. But in my mind, I was screaming. I couldn't move, and I look up, my eyes. 'Cause that's the only thing I could move was my eyes, and there was just this thin laser beam light. It came straight down, and it entered my belly button. And that's all I remember of that one. So I'm assuming they were taking eggs. I do have a hybrid daughter. Many of you know and this was a physical experience, guys. I was in my room, and basically a man appeared in my room. Long story short, it was actually a Draco, and mind controlled me, made me feel a certain way, if you know what I mean, and climbed on top of me, took advantage of me, and then then I had memories and experience after that where I met my hybrid daughter. I have not yet shared that experience, but I will share that. So is my hybrid daughter the result of this Draco when he RAP'd me, or was it the result of the greys? I don't know. Possibly I could have more than one hybrid child. I only have memories of meeting one, a female. So yeah, I believe they were taking eggs. I have suffered with my I have extreme. I started my period very early, so it's very common when we're being messed with these certain types of extraterrestrials, greys. You know, those that are responsible for the hybrid program, breeding program. You know, a lot of us that are victims of them, we often do start our periods at a very young age. Missing periods, late periods, heavy periods, painful periods, feeling like you're pregnant, a late period, and then you have a huge period, and it's gross, guys. I won't go into that anymore, but any more detail. But yeah, so I don't know what else they were doing. I'm assuming they were taking eggs. So, and I still believe they do. In fact, I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and she's psychic, and she said they're still taking eggs from you, Zoe. And I said, you know what? That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And I believe they're doing it with my daughter as well. So yeah, that's that one. What was the last one I wanted to share with you tonight? Oh, of course, how can I forget? So yeah, the last one is the one when I watched the trailer, it triggered this memory. So I was in bed years ago, again in the same house, and I actually fell asleep listening to Ghost Adventures. Um, and then I woke up because I could hear this clicking noise, two distinct clicking noises. And I was like, what the heck? I look at my phone, and on my phone is still playing what I fell asleep to, which is Ghost Adventures, the same episode. So I hadn't been asleep long. And yeah, I heard two distinct, well, I felt two energies, and it was like, and I heard the clicking tones. Now, don't laugh at me, guys, but I'm going to try and reenact it. I think I did pretty well earlier when I was trying to reenact it to my friend, but I'll try my best. It was kind of like, probably not very good. But anyway, and it was slower than that, and at times it was faster. But I knew psychically that it was two, and I saw in my mind's eye two greys. They were having a conversation, and they'd both be doing that at the same time, making these clicking noises, tones, and then one would stop, and then the other one would do it, and then it would stop. You know, with conversation. And I knew who it was. I knew, I felt. And you know, these clicking tones, it was like their language, but you know, like every language, you know, they have their own. I can't. I'm trying to explain it, guys. I'm trying to think of the right words, but I guess accents, but not really. Like they had their own individual tone, I guess, maybe. I don't know, guys. I don't explain. It's hard to explain these things sometimes, but yeah, so I just couldn't believe it, and I was listening to, these beings, and I was so confused. And then I said out aloud, "Hello," whilst they were in mid convo, and it immediately stopped. And I sensed telepathically that they were listening to me. It was almost like they were thinking, "Oh shit," and trying to fool me like I didn't hear them, but they were still there. I felt their energy, I felt their presence. And then they went. So of course, me being rational, me being logical, I thought perhaps maybe there was, because I fell asleep during the episode, perhaps maybe it's the episode. Maybe, I don't know, whoever recorded it, uploaded it, did a crappy job, I do gaslight myself, guys, a lot. But anyway, I can't help it. I like to debunk things. So I rewound the program, and I watched it, and I didn't hear not one tone, not one click, nothing. I heard nothing. So to me, I was like, shit, yeah, that was a real experience. And then I remember after that trying to find information anywhere on Google, YouTube videos. And I remember specifically putting in the search bar, two grey aliens speaking through a phone, just, you got to try anything, guys. And to my surprise, there was a guy. In fact, I'm going to try and find that video. It's very old, and if I see it, I'll share it. But chances of me finding it may be slim. Basically, he was describing the same thing or similar, if I remember correctly. And he was explaining the same clicky tone noise, and I was like, wow. So I'm going to try and find it, guys, and include it. I hope I do. It might take me a while, and if I don't, then I don't, which will be a bummer. But yeah, so of course, I was very confused. I'm like, what was the purpose of that? What was the point? Was it intentional? Did they want me to hear? Because they seemed surprised when I went hello. What was the I don't know, because it's technology. Sometimes technology does pick up, like radios. You see in the movies, the radios pick up. We can pick up all sorts, spirits coming through. You see in the movies, extraterrestrials speaking and coming through. Was it an accident? Were they close by and I don't know, my phone or something picked up their voices and it came through? Because they seemed surprised, and I felt that from them. So I was like, what was the point? What was the purpose of that? That was the only thing that I could come up with and feel and sense. But let me know, guys, what you think. Because they have been around me a lot, especially when I was younger. And so, yeah, it's just very interesting. And I completely forgot about that. Like I say, it was only because I was talking to my friend about this trailer, and it just came back, and I was like, oh my God. So if this movie does have grey elements in it, the type of beings, then yeah, that's how they talk, guys. That is how they talk. Mostly they're telepathic. But when they do talk, which I believe is not a lot of the time. I believe it's quite rare, but when they do, that's kind of how they sound, at least from my experience. Let me know, guys. Have you had any experiences? Does this resonate? Have you, I don't know, heard anyone else had these kind of experiences? Let me know, guys, in the comments. But anyway, guys, I think that's it. I'll perhaps share some more of my great experiences in the future. I just wanted to just do a little short video, really. It's just because of that trailer triggered that memory, and I thought, you know what, I might as well make a video out of it and share, some other great experiences in there. So anyway, guys, let me know in the comments, have you had your own experiences with Grace? Be interesting. And I will speak to you all in the future. Bye, guys.